All right, so we're live and we're on. Thank you so much for being here with us, Sherrell. Um, I really, really enjoyed your masterclass, and I think it's a perfect way to get ready for the holiday season.
Yeah.
Most of the women who will be joining here today either know me or know you because they're either coming from your community and found out about this and are joining, or are coming from my side. So I'll quickly introduce myself for those who don't know who I am. So my name is Rosemary, that you probably all know. I'm currently based in Belgium, Europe, and I'm the founder of Shetribe, a sisterhood community focused on helping women of color just get the best out of themselves. So holistic living is something that I like to
Mm.
promote. For people to feel healthier, happier, and more fulfilled in life. And as part of our membership, we work with different experts who share monthly their topic of expertise with us to enlighten us and help us get healthier, happier, more fulfilled. And we are so lucky to have you here with us this month, Sherelle. I think I've watched it, probably put it on repeat. It's just, I don't know if you've been ever told this, but your voice is so soothing. It's like, wow, you were meant to do this job. You were meant to do whatever it is you're doing, because it's really calming just to listen to the presentation. I really, really enjoyed it. So yeah, I won't talk too much. I will give you the chance to introduce yourself, tell us who
Okay.
you are, and yeah, and let's get started.
Oh, thank you so much, Rosemary. I'm so honored to be here with everyone today for our Q&A session. Um, I think that just your, kind words just really helps to reaffirm me, as a Black woman that I'm truly, walking in my purpose. And my purpose includes Rosemary and all the other amazing women here, to just share information so that we can make well-informed decisions moving forward. I know that some of the information was a little jarring, which is why I really spent time and effort with tempering my voice, because sometimes, facts can come off really sharp,
Mm-hmm.
or almost, like it's cutting. And so when it came to this presentation about mindfulness and why as Black women we really need it the most, I really wanted to set the foundation for, a lot of the factors and stressors that we deal with in our community. The simple fact that even though we may have become very much accustomed to a lot of the stressors, it still doesn't discount the power that they have on us from a cellular level, as it relates to our current health and well-being, but also our longevity
Mm-hmm.
here in this world. We don't want to be here just surviving. I think that we're, here in the United States, I think this generation, I'm Generation X, along with their, generation millennials and Generation Z, that are really of the information age and realize that we are not too far from slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I think back to my grandmother, who was born and raised in Mississippi, and I think about her health and well-being and what information she was privy to, it really didn't matter. In the end, she was so close to, survival. That's what many of us had to do in that particular point in history. And so that survival skill is a great skill to have, but we want to begin to move from survival to thriving just like our counterparts do in this world.
Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit more about your background? And because you have a
Yes,
very broad background, and
I
also
do.
tell us a little bit how you got into this. How did you get into this world, and why?
Yeah, and you know what? That was the first question you asked me, and I just did a detour right onto the information because I just love sharing information. But yes, a little bit about me. Thank you, Rosemary, for putting me right back on track. My name is Sherrell, and I'm originally born here in the United States and raised in Augusta, Georgia, the South, the deep South. I have a very varied past. I went to college. I thought to become, people probably haven't heard this because I haven't really spoken about it, but when I went to school, all through high school, I thought I was going to be a nurse. My dad works in the medical field. My mom was a caregiver for those we now know to have autism. At the time, she worked for the state of Georgia, and they called it the Center for Retardation. And so I've been around caregivers kind of my whole life. And naturally, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. And I can tell you within my freshman year of college, I went to Albany State at HBCU. And I didn't like it. So I changed majors a couple of times. But what is so amazing about God, about the divine, is that even when we're a little lost, we can get back on our track and we can see the patterns form throughout our lives. And so it was very important for me to finish school. And during that time in school, I actually went into the military. I took a detour. And so I was able to finish my undergraduate degree while serving in the Army. I served for 5 years and was stationed in Yongsan in Korea, Seoul. So I had some opportunities to travel. And some people will look at me and say, you don't look like you used to be in the military, but I have very much still a military mindset, believe you me. And so from that point, towards the end of my enlistment, I was stationed in Fort Rucker in Alabama. I began to deal with some health challenges. If anybody knows anything about the military, it is really, you are a soldier 24/7. And so your mind, your body, and your spirit takes the brunt of it. And so my body began to really respond to all that I had been putting it through. And I developed osteoarthritis, and that took me into the wellness space. I have always been a very active person. I graduated from a performing fine arts school, so I was active in choir and ballet. Always loved to move. Even in middle school, I ran track. So very accustomed to, not a professional athlete per se, but I know the beauty of the body and how the body moves and how it can make you feel alive and well, and at its strongest, and how it can feel, your body can feel weak and defeated at its lowest point. And so I began to experience that, dealing with back issues. I began to go through depression because I was still fairly young when I was having all of these back issues coming out of the military. And that's where I discovered yoga. And so I began practicing yoga for about 2 years. And after that, I decided that I really want to teach this to people. Like, I really want to show people what this is about, especially in the Black community. And I also began meditating. And so I began to teach meditation and yoga, and I've been teaching it now for over 10 years with an array of other certifications, all in line with the health and well-being of those in my community, whether it's breath work, learning how to journal, learning just how to use different holistic practices to aid in finding enjoyment, not only in life, but enjoyment in your body, because we all have dealt with a number of trauma and stressors. And so it is really my hope just to help women become a little bit more mindful as they are living out their purpose and doing all that they are here in this world to do, but not to the detriment of your health and well-being, and realizing how important it is. And so that's just a little bit about who I am. I also work for the federal government, and I actually just celebrated 20 years of federal service, to include my military service. So just an array of different things. And I tend to add my human resources experience with my wellness experience to not only help my community, but also do wellness presentations and trainings for leaders and aspiring leaders, entrepreneurs, so that they can learn to just better take care of themselves and also to take care of their staff and their team members.
That's amazing. There's so much needed. And I think this year, probably you must have been solicited a lot, because
yes,
needed this year more than ever. Thank you very much for that introduction. And many people don't know this also, but my husband was in the military as well.
Okay.
5 years. He's an American.
Okay, awesome.
And he was stationed in Hawaii.
Okay, nice place to be stationed.
Yeah, like for you in Hawaii.
Beautiful.
Um, that was before we met, so I didn't get to live in Hawaii. But yeah, so
Okay.
but indeed, as you said, when people look at him, you can't really tell that he was in the military. But if you look at a few things, you're like, okay, that discipline, that
Yes.
is still in there.
Some of those things like always stay with you. I come from a military family, so my dad served in Vietnam, my brother served in the Air Force for 12 years, and my husband is retired Navy.
Oh,
So,
wow. So yeah, that's a military.
yeah.
So thank you so much for that. And as you said, sometimes when you need something you can't find it, you just have to create it for yourself. And I love how
Mhm.
you were like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with, and you tried yoga. And I know that especially for women of color, for Black women, yoga back in, a couple of years ago was like,
Yeah.
what? You're doing yoga? This
Yeah.
go well together. And I know
Mhm.
that you're a Christian as well.
Yes.
And I have Christian friends who still kind of look at me like, you do yoga? What does that mean?
Yeah.
And that's hopefully something we'll maybe get to talk about today or another time. But I know that a
Mhm.
lot of women who um, are Christian have a hard time bringing those two things together.
Yes.
And I love that you have been able, to find a way to bring those two together. So hopefully we'll get to talk about that as well in the future. So
Yeah.
the topic of mindfulness, as you said, and you talked a little bit about that in the beginning. You said because we're always in survival mode, and especially us women of color, and I could relate to a lot of the things you said.
Mhm.
I was born and raised in Europe, from Ghanaian background. So both my parents are from Ghana. Um, but I'm first generation here, and growing up in a environment where you're the only whatever, it's very stressful at times because you always have
Yeah.
to kind of prove yourself. You always want to work
Mhm.
harder. You always want to belong, and you don't realize how much stress you put on
Mhm.
yourself. And I was raised by a single mother, so I know what it means to be living in survival mode so long
Yeah.
that you think that's the only way to live. And
Mhm.
things you take from that, you pass that on to your kids. And for the longest, I thought I was also survival mode. I was barely keeping my head up till I realized, as you said, thriving is the way to live and not
Mhm.
mere survival. And I think that's great, the work that you do to help us all find ways to thrive and not just to survive. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's so much that we can learn from those that have gone before us. Our amazingly strong ancestors did so much, and they did it with a level of integrity and strength that I believe that many of us still have deep down in our DNA. And I believe that it provides a good foundation. But from that foundation, thriving must be birthed. We
Mm-hmm.
can't continue to stay in a space where we are simply surviving and missing out on the beauty of life, the beauty of this body that I believe that God has given us, the creativity and the openness in the mind. There's some parts of our mind and our consciousness that we're not even able to unlock or even visit because we are worrying how we're going to get food on the table. How are we going to get clothes for our kids? How are we going to find a job? Those are all related to the basic levels of survival. If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, you're familiar with those basic needs having those to be met before you can go up the ladder of hierarchy, where at the top is self-actualization, being able to understand your life's purpose, your strengths, your weaknesses. And unfortunately, so many of us are still in survival that we haven't been able to even have the space or the time to explore the depths of our being and really what we're here for, because we're still just trying to keep our heads above water.
Exactly, exactly. One of the things that you asked us to do during the masterclass is to do the stress test. Uh,
Yes.
I took the stress test because I think I scored better now than I would have, a few years ago, not knowing what I know now. So
Okay.
in a way, it's cheating for me a bit, because it was difficult for me to answer. It was like, do I answer like how I used to think or how I feel?
Mm-hmm.
But even, by staying honest, I was still kind of moderately stressed. And
You
I
are.
think what got those results to moderately stressed is because I have a lot of tension in my shoulders, and I used to
Mm-hmm.
suffer from migraine and all of that. So maybe let's take us back to one of the main topic that you started with in the masterclass, is what is stress? Because a lot of people think they're not stressed. It's like when they hear
Yeah.
mindfulness, they're like, oh, meditation, mindfulness, that's not for me. And when they
Mm-hmm.
hear stress, they're like, oh, I'm good. Who, what? So maybe if you could talk a little bit about does someone recognize that they're stressed, and what is stress actually?
Yeah, stress is, our response to a stimulus. It typically comes about when there's a change, whether there's an internal change in our bodies or external environmental change. And so our response to that can really be to our detriment. We know, and we have to put in context that stress doesn't always have to be bad, because there is a such thing as short-term stress and long-term stress that's more so chronic. That's the one that I'm talking about, not the short-term stress that, you feel like, maybe a time like when you were in school and you had to study for a test, national exams and things like that, where there's a specific uh, begin time and an end time. And that stress, is actually a good way to like press you to the point that it almost like, you're squeezing a grape. It brings out the best in you. And I believe that we all need some amount of short-term stress to really bring out the best in us. So it's a little bit of pressure, a little bit of pushing for a short time. That's not the type of stress we're talking about, but we're talking about that long-term stress where your body has these systems in place that when you feel like you're in danger or your life is threatened, your body goes into this fight flight state from your nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so your nervous system begins to react in response to that. And the longer that it goes on, the more detrimental it can be on your mind, your body, and your spirit. So when you're in fight or flight mode, the body is pulling from, trying to get the adrenaline, trying to get everything that it needs to flee or freeze from the situation. So you may notice things like when you're stressed out that your hair begins to suffer, your nails, like these aren't necessarily the essential things that your body needs. So it's going to pull from those other areas into your internal organs to protect you. And so can you imagine when you're in this space of constant stress, every time there is a stimulus, you respond in this particular matter. And we also can't, forget that when it comes to stress, stress doesn't necessarily come from bad things. You can be stressed when you're about to get married, when you're about to give birth to a baby, you're preparing to buy a new house, you're preparing to merge families. All of those things are joyous events, but it can cause stress. So in the end, it's not necessarily about stress in the sense necessarily whether it's good or bad, but how prolonged is that stress in your life? And so I believe that many of us, especially in Black and Brown communities, have really become accustomed to chronic stress. That's why we don't notice it. It is a part of the fabric of our lives, unfortunately, whether you're dealing with systemic racism through the banking industry, when you go to work, in your community, depending on where you work or live, you just become accustomed to it. And so traditionally, our mind would indicate when we're stressed. And then when we don't respond, from those responses from our mind, letting us know, the body then begins to respond. And that's where my area of expertise is really, because many people, unfortunately, may not pick on the mental alerts, but they'll pick up on the body. Oh, yes, Sherrell, my neck is tight. How long has it been like that? For about a month. You think you think you might be stressed, right? And this is separate and apart from, if you've been in some type of accident or you've had some type of injury. I'm talking about things that just come out of the blue, and that there's some type of connection or correlation with Maybe you've been working too hard. You haven't taken time to move your body in a different way. You haven't taken time to nurture your body by eating the proper meals. Now your digestion system is kind of off whack. You can't really hold food down. You're dehydrated. All of those things are indicators of you being stressed. And so your mind is always trying to alert you when it's stressed. And when you don't pay attention to the mind, then the body begins to speak. And it's up to us to listen.
I think I said that to someone yesterday, or maybe because I had a live somewhere this week. And I think I heard it from Oprah, and she was saying, sometimes God will send you a sign as a brick hitting your head. And if you don't listen, that I think the whole building collapses on you. And I've had it many times where the whole building collapsing on me is when I finally sat down. So it's like you take a day off, then you get sick. You know, all of a sudden you're so sick you can't do anything anymore, because your mind, as you said, has been sending you signs all these times, and you're like, no, I'm good, until like, you know what, I will break you down so that you can't do anything else but recover. And for so many of us, that's the case. We wait till it's too late to finally do something about it. And I love how you talked about, you know, the little things that your body doesn't need is what will break off first. So your nails, your skin, your hair. And a lot of women keep, you know, recently someone reached out to me and said, you know, Rose, you have some wonderful skin. What do you do? My skin is breaking out all the time. And I was like, I asked her questions that had nothing to do with her product. She was like, yeah, but why are you asking me if I sleep well and if I eat well and, you know, if I'm stressed? And I realized that when I was younger and I started to learn how to drive, I was so stressed from driving that I had a breakout coming from nowhere.
Wow.
And I remember going to the doctor, and he was like, did anything big happen to you recently? And at that time, I think I had broken up with my boyfriend at that time, and I was learning how to drive. And so definitely my body was reacting. So I think we need to indeed pay more attention to the voice, the little signs. But when we don't, you know, it's just our body just screams. And a lot of the diseases out there are just your body, you know, dis-ease, you know, not at ease, stress. And hopefully we can learn more so that we can pull the alarm bell a lot quicker than just having to wait for us to be sick. One thing that you shared during the session is the numbers, you know? And we're like, oh God, could you talk a little bit about that for those who haven't watched it, so that, you know, they know how serious this is. This is not a joke, ladies.
I don't. Oops. Oh, it seems like I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Okay, hold on. Let me turn down just a little bit. Okay. So when it comes to the numbers don't lie. I think Jay-Z said it best. Stress is not something made up. Stress is not something that people use as a crutch. Stress is real. And when you talk about stress in Black and Brown communities, it is real. And many women in particular suffer from stress, and that can be linked to heart disease. It can be linked back to high cholesterol, diabetes, and a lot of the ailments and health challenges that we face in our community. And that's why your doctor typically will say, you know, do you have any tools in place to help you reduce the level of stress in your life? Because it is real, and they realize that the stress is really the root of the problem. And so when we, in the training, we talked a lot about, you know, Black women and also white women, our counterparts, and what those numbers look like as far as age and aging. And it's very sobering. If you haven't looked at the presentation, definitely check it out. And it's not necessarily to scare us, but it's definitely those numbers and statistics definitely help to remind us that we are in a position where we need to make some change. And I understand that the way that society globally, not just here in the United States, but globally, can kind of portray that in order to de-stress that you need all of these things that equate to money. don't. You don't. It would be nice to go on vacation, holiday. It would be great to do all these things, go to the spa, but your mental health and well-being is not connected to your financial state. It just isn't. Everyone has the right, the birthright to be healthy, to not only survive, but thrive. And so we have to, just begin to really reach back to what many of our ancestors did and kind of start there with simple things like going outside, getting some fresh air, not being so chained and tied to our jobs and all these different responsibilities that we have. Learning how to cut down on some of our to-do lists. All of those things on your list are not needed to survive. You can probably cut some of those things, right? Especially those things that are related and attached to your ego, those things that just help you feel better about yourself. So being able to learn how to cut down on those things, how to sacrifice for the greater good of your health and for the health of your family and your community as well, because I believe that it's all about us setting the example, especially for those that have children in the household. Your children are looking towards you. And so if you are a workaholic and you never have time for anything but to, put food on the table, to buy clothes, to do the basics, then we're passing that same mindset down to our children. And it's a mindset of stress. It's a mindset of stress. And so we want to begin to end that mindset and allow our children to see us not only surviving, but thriving. Taking the opportunity, just take a nap. Just, as my grandma used to say, you just need to get somewhere and lay down. Just lay down and be quiet, right? It doesn't have to happen at bedtime. It doesn't have to happen at nighttime. But what would happen if you just sat down for a moment, just closed your eyes and just took some deep breaths? It doesn't have to be this nap where you actually fall asleep, but just resting rather. Resting or taking a nap. What kind of impact would that have on you? Yeah, you may not be able to get everything done on your to-do list, but would it help you feel better? Would it help you think more clearly? Would you have more clarity of mind and body? Exactly. Those are just some things to consider.
Yeah. I see Nadia said in the chat that she was also shocked to see the numbers, as she didn't realize how much it was affecting our community. And I think that because we have this thing of the strong Black woman,
yes,
we probably don't show it as much as others, maybe white women do or whatever. So you barely ever hear a Black woman say, oh my God, I'm stressed, or I'm depressed, or I need a time off. I think more now. And at some point people were like, is it even like a trend or something? But you rarely hear Black women complaining about this. They're like, you just hustle. We have this hustle mentality in our community that it's like surviving. It's almost like a badge of honor. Like, look at how hard I'm hustling. I can do with sleeping 3 hours a night, and I can do with this, and I have 5 jobs. And, it's like, it's a mentality problem, and also asking for help, because we're so used to having to do everything on our own that it's like we're almost afraid to ask for help because it seems like we will be weak. So I think this badge of honor, and also this label of strong Black women, we need to work on it ourselves as Black women, to start saying no to that badge, because we kind of have taken it on and worn it as a badge of honor, like, oh, I'm strong, I can do this. And I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, I think that we've seen those that have gone before us do it so well. We are left here with these images of grandma and big mama and aunties and cousins that it seemed like what they did was superhuman. They did it all. I can remember my grandmother getting up in the morning and cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner all within like just a few hours. And she did it like every day. Like, I can't even imagine doing that with my schedule and my life now. But the part that we highlight are the things that bring us joy, and it makes us feel proud of where we came from. And that's great. It's very hard sometimes to look at those same individuals that gave us so much hope, so much strength, and they inspired us, to also see that there were cracks in the picture. The cracks that we don't talk about in our families are, maybe Big Mama died too soon because she was holding up the entire village, the entire family on just her shoulders. And she died of heart disease. She died of high cholesterol that no one really knew about, and she wasn't really managing. And so we have to get to a point as a community, especially Black women, to understand that we can love those that have gone before us, but also love them and learn from them. And that takes us taking them off of this pedestal, idolizing kind of what they did and trying to project that onto ourselves here in 2020. Those are many of the things that they had to do because they were in survival mode. And so I think it's very unfair for us to try to take on that same role in 2020 when we have been able to progress from that. We should be able to freely, without any shame, say, I need some counseling. I need some help. I want to hire someone to come in and help me clean my house, right? And so that strong Black woman narrative needs to die, and it needs to die today because we are birthed from strong, amazing women, but we have our own identity, and we have to claim that, knowing that they provided the amazing foundation for us. But we don't have to be exactly who they were, because they also lived in a space where there was less choice. We now have a choice. If we need help with healthcare, it doesn't make us weak. If we need help with the laundry, it does not make us weak or any less capable. I believe that Black women especially have to lean into our strength, but also lean into our vulnerability, which is what our counterparts have an opportunity to do. For many times we had no choice but to be strong. But as we come more into our identity, remember Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if we will begin to tend to the needs and kind of cut that list, a lot of other things come. We want luxury. We want those things that we didn't have for our children and for ourselves. And so we will put that in perspective. We will begin to go up that hierarchy to the point where we can come to self-actualization, where we can begin to understand our own identity and what we want as Black women in 2020, and still honor the legacy left behind by our ancestors.
Exactly. I love how you said that, because I think we have more options. We're living as if we didn't, and
right.
You mentioned the cleaning. It's like I did a poll the other time in my group, and I was asking women, what is something that you need that you feel like you're too embarrassed to actually ask for? And a lot of them said cleaning. I'd actually like to pay someone to clean, but I feel weird asking for that as a Black woman, because many of us, either our mothers were cleaning someone else's home, or someone very close to us. It's like, how dare you, get someone else to come and clean your house, and almost like you don't deserve that. But the thing is, if you don't get the help that you need, you will never get to that, next level where you have those options now, and you can have it. It's not like it's costing you a house to get someone to come and help you out 1 hour or 2 hours a week. And that's something I think personally for me, I've been saying to my husband, next year we're getting someone to help us out, because definitely, luckily I have my mom helping here, but she's helping with the kids, and I'm having a third one, and I cannot imagine myself cleaning this house. And to be honest, if I could have someone living in doing everything, I would. And that's something that when you go back home in Africa and Ghana, you see that women have no shame. They're asking for help. Everyone has a house help, everyone has someone, because there are different tiers in, the price also, but everyone is asking for help, either with their kids or the cleaning. And it doesn't make them less of of a wife or of
Right.
a mother just because someone else is helping you out with things. And I think here, we're very hard on ourselves, and also putting everyone else's needs above our own. And in the community, there are a lot of mothers at Shetribe, and I think there's a lot of guilt,
Mm-hmm.
um, that doesn't allow us to take care of ourselves. And one of the things that we talked about earlier was how stress is the main cause of many disease, like you said, heart failure, all of that. But another issue that a lot of Black women are dealing with is reproductive health, hormonal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's linked a lot to high level of
It
stress.
is.
Cortisol going way too high. I don't know if you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that it is linked to so many things, the infertility rate when it comes to Black women. And I am someone that has personal challenges, just like everyone. I'll share here that I have issues with fibroids, very prevalent in on my mother's side of the family. I believe all my cousins have, dealt with some issues with fibroids, and it disproportionately affects Black women versus white women. When you look at some of the studies on fibroids, when women complain about hormonal issues, gynecological issues, we tend to get the response from the medical community that you're okay, or they want to go possibly straight for a hysterectomy, versus our white counterparts. It's like, oh my gosh, we got to find out what's the right solution for you. Because even in the medical industry, there's this narrative that Black women are somehow superhuman and can just handle pain. So sometimes when you go to the doctor for many of these things that are very, very personal to you, right? Some people are still in their childbearing years and they want to bear children and what have you. And to have those in the medical community say that, oh, it's not as bad as what you're saying, or to discount your experiences as if it doesn't warrant other options other than a hysterectomy, it can definitely be sobering. But when it comes to, I'm not sure, there are various linkages between fibroids and other issues that deal with women. But I know that stress is probably weaved in there somewhere. And sometimes the stress is not necessarily your own personal stress, but it's generational stress. I don't know if anyone can imagine this. I saw this on social media some years ago, but it's the beautiful womb of a woman. And in that womb, you see the egg, right? And so you can definitely see the connection that you, if I could use you as an example, Rosemary, you are carrying your child, and your child, if it is a little girl, has eggs of her own. So literally, your experience as a mother is impacting your soon-to-be child, and if it's a little girl, she also has eggs of her own that are all being carried within yourself. And so that stress is not just a mental understanding of how we respond to stimulus, but it can also be a cellular experience, especially for women, very different from men, that can carry from the womb to the child to the egg. And so I think that there's a lot of science that is really supporting and better understanding stress and trauma and how it's carried through the cells, the DNA. And so that's why we have to really be concerned and be at the forefront of what is going on in our lives that is causing unnecessary stress. Some stresses we're not going to be able to get away from, but what are those stresses that we have a choice about? Let's remember, people, when we talk about our ancestors did a lot because they did not have a choice. You have a choice, sister. If you want to get someone to clean your house, if not every month, you want to treat yourself this month, if it is going to help you with your mental health and well-being, just to have peace of mind, to have someone else to clean your house, do it. It's worth it. You are investing in yourself when you are able to use those options that are available to you. They were not available in the past. So we have to begin to move beyond trying to carry this strong Black woman narrative, because it needs to stop. We are strong, we are vulnerable, We are joyous people. We are passionate people. We get angry. We are all things. And we have to be able to embrace that.
I love that. And as you said, you don't have to do it every week or every day if you don't have it, but once a
No,
month. And many of our sisters spend a lot of money on other things, hair and
right,
makeup and whatever. So it's not about the money. We know it's not about the money, but it's about
right.
being able to see what you need. And as you said, look at the to do and focus on what needs to be done that will bring you a peace of mind, and that is not related to the ego, because a lot of the things that we put on our to do is like, I need to do this so I belong, or
Right.
I look good or whatever. But we need to focus on the things that will make us feel healthier, happier, and more fulfilled, really.
And
uh,
support us in our identity of who you are becoming,
mhm,
right? Michelle Obama said it best. Who are you becoming? And so you can't necessarily focus on who you are becoming if you're still tied up in ego, trying to keep up with someone else and all these material things. Getting your hair and nails done is great, but it's not the end all be all. I'm talking about investing in things that protect and help support your mental health and well-being.
mm,
That is how we're able to win and thrive in society versus accumulating all these things. And then at 35, she dropped dead. At 40, she dropped dead, right? Having all these things. So beginning to shift from how are we investing in ourselves, not from a monetary or materialistic standpoint, but how are we investing in ourselves, in our mental health, in our spiritual health and well-being, in our physical bodies. It matters, and it's important because our mortality is on the line at this point.
mhm, mhm. Ladies, check out the video. I believe you said it was 3 years different that we have between
Yes.
us and our white counterparts. That 3 years, that's a lot. You know what you could do in 3 years, ladies? And we're
Yeah, I mean, as a society, we tend to highlight, the quote unquote black don't crack. You
Mhm,
can look, you can look like you're still 30 and be in your 20s. But what science says is when it comes to our white counterparts from a biological standpoint, the part that people don't see, that's the part where we're aging.
mhm.
We may not look like it, but we are so much older than our white counterparts from a biological standpoint due to the unprocessed stress and trauma that we refuse to deal with.
Mhm.
So it's great to look, great on the outside, but we also have to be aware of the inside as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I think we need to keep repeating that to ourselves. And if there's one thing that we'll focus on coming year is to look within and to fix that first instead of looking outwards. Um, in our last minutes, ladies, feel free to send in your questions in the chat. If you have any questions for Sherrell, could you leave us with a few tips on, okay, now that we know how to recognize stress, we know that there's temporary stress where there's a beginning and an end, and there's the one that we've been dealing with for so long that we don't even know we're stressed anymore, but we do recognize it because we either have our nails breaking constantly, our skin is, acting up, our hair is breaking off, our shoulders are tight, we're just getting sick all the time and we just don't know
Mhm.
why. We know that if we look within, it's probably linked to stress. Now that we know that, how do we try and start fixing that, little by little? What are the things that we could start doing today?
So I want to give 3 simple tips on what anyone can do today. It doesn't take any money. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are or what your financial status is. It doesn't matter. The first tip that I want to offer is learn how to pay attention to yourself. You're paying attention to everything else that's going on. What's going on with your kids, your spouse, your community. What's going on with you? Pay attention. I just went to the doctor recently, and I was able to clearly explain my symptoms, how long they had been going on, my experiences, because I pay attention. So pay attention, pause, breathe, scan your body, scan your mind. How are you feeling today? Did you eat? Did you digest your food well? Was your stomach messed up for the whole day? Are you eliminating properly? Like really just basic stuff. Pay attention. Number 2, Of course, I'm going to have to say meditate, but you can meditate a number of different ways. If you don't like guided meditations, maybe taking a walk, just doing a meditative walk. You can meditate by reading, by journaling or writing, or you can simply do a simple breathing meditation where you just take a moment and take in 10 deep breaths. That's a great way to just meditate. Slowly begin to bring some stillness and some quiet into your life. 3 to 5 minutes a day. That's all you have to do, right? And then the last tip that I want to give is very simple. If you don't do anything else, really begin to find information that supports you and your immune system. In this pandemic, as it relates to COVID, there's been a huge emphasis on the vaccine and other things. But I believe if we look at it from a holistic standpoint, this is a call to action to everyone. That I'm not saying that you have to pick a particular diet or go vegan or anything. I'm not necessarily a proponent of diets. I believe you need to eat what feels good for you and what fuels you and gives you energy. But what I think is really important in this day and time is that we do our diligent research and begin to learn more about how you can boost your immune system. What are some things that you can eat? What are some things that you can do? What are some supplementation that you can do to take charge of your own health and well-being versus waiting on a vaccine or being nervous about it or anxious about it? Take charge of first being aware. Begin to pay attention to yourself, right? 2, find some space for stillness to meditate. And 3, begin to pay attention and begin to support your immune system in the best way that you can with the information that you have.
Amazing. I think that's so powerful. And as you said, this doesn't cost money, it doesn't take a lot of time. And it's just, something that we can start doing today. And I must say that I have been doing this for a while, and it's definitely helped me because I no longer have migraines. And that's also not only linked to just me being calmer, I think, but also genetically. I think after I had my first baby, that just disappeared for some reason. And my mom was like that too. She said after she had me, it just went away. Doctors don't know how that's linked. But for instance, my tense shoulders and all these things have reduced, and I'm able to scan my body a lot better. Like throughout the day, I'm able to actually put a word to how I feel. And I never used to do that. Like most times I can say out loud also to others, my sister or my husband, I'm not feeling well, I'm overwhelmed, I'm anxious.
Using your words.
Like, yeah, and that's not something I was capable of doing in the past. Like I couldn't even word it to myself, let alone express it. And I think that's very important to note it, as you said, like, how am I feeling like right now? Are my shoulders tensed up? Maybe I should relax them a bit. How are my eyes? Like, am I raising my eyebrows? How do I feel? Is my jaw clenched? Or so all these things, starting to notice it, and what helped me was to write it down. Journaling, as you said, is one of my favorite tools to use for just clearing my mind, but also just noting down how I feel. And most people write down what they've done and, emotional stuff, but I also write down, today I felt stressed. My body was like this or that, or I didn't digest very well, whatever. So I think it's very important, as you said, to start paying attention to yourself. Listen to the signs. Don't wait till the whole building collapses on you. And
I can even give this as a quick example. When we were in the midst of the pandemic and I began to have all these Zoom meetings, I never had any issues with my eyes, but I was rubbing my eyes all the time and I began to feel like my eyes were strained. I began to do a little research and discovered that there is actually blue light radiating from your phone and your computer screen. And so I took it upon myself to, 1, make a eye appointment with my doctor, but 2, to also buy these glasses. These are not prescription glasses. These are glasses off of Amazon specifically for blue light. So anytime I'm looking at a screen or I'm on my phone, I put these glasses on and the eye strain cleared up just like that. That comes from paying attention. My eyes were not like this before. They feel strained. They feel burnt. I feel burning sensation. They feel tired. Let me pay attention. And what can I do within my ability to make a choice to change this? Note, I still have an eye appointment, but I made a decision to get these glasses to help me with the blue light, and it's been like a lifesaver. So something just as simple as that comes from pay attention. Pay attention.
Pay attention and take action, because we have so much information. We're just sitting there like we don't have options. Again, we have
Right.
so many options out there. That's great. And then number two, you said make some time, take some time to just create stillness. And I think a lot of people get scared by the word meditation, blah, blah. But as you said, it could be as simple as just closing your eyes, sitting and breathing a couple of times, just walking, listening to music, reading. I actually have a reminder on my phone. I think at 10 a.m., at 3 p.m., and at 8 p.m. that says, "How do you feel?"
Oh, nice.
How do you feel right now? And so when I see that, it forces me to think about it, like, how do I feel? and, and I mostly answer it for myself, like, I'm so stressed, I have a meeting, or so anything. So just that reminder popping up on my screen, how do you feel? Sometimes when I realize, oh, actually, I'm not very well, I take a few moments to just breathe, and just deep breathing a couple of times, 3 or 5 times, and I feel calmer, and I just continue. And I love that these are the little things that I've been able to apply to my life, which is making a big difference. I still have a long way to go, but it's definitely helping me out. So thank
You
you.
sound like you are a Black woman that is putting mindfulness front and center, and that is to be commended. Thank you, Rosemary, for setting the example.
Thank you. I need to, because I think most people look at me and like, oh, Rose, she's got it together. She's never stressed. And I'm like, really, you people don't know me clearly. And I think I would be a total wreck if I didn't do these things. I have to. And I think I should be doing more to even put in, pay more attention. So that's why I said this masterclass was really a blessing for me. It comes at the perfect time. And I cannot wait to practice it even more and more and get better at this, and show others, because when you feel good, people around you notice it and they want to do
Yes.
the same thing. So we're not only doing it for ourselves, but we're doing it for others. So thank you very much. We
You're
have
welcome.
of minutes left. I would love for you to tell us how we can continue this work with you, because a lot of us have heard this before. This is nothing new. Like, yeah, I know
Right.
about this, but we still haven't done anything about it.
Right. Is it anything that we know is just information, or it's just theory until we put it into practice? So that really, a lot of us, we are information gatherers. We like to know a lot, but we don't put it all into practice. So I hope that this was simply a reminder for everyone, even if none of this information was new. If you've heard it before, that's great. Now is the time to put it into practice. Find one mindfulness tool that works for you, and if you don't have a tool, this is a great way to time to discover one. I offer meditation on Insight Timer. Can I share that, Rose?
Sure.
Okay. So I offer live stream and guided meditations on Insight Timer. It's a free meditation app, global. I had people from South Africa today and all over the US and the world coming together to meditate with God. I specifically offer Christian and biblical meditation through meditating with God. And so we do a short session and then we practice together. I also have a YouTube channel, especially for those that are interested in learning.
Your links in the chat.
Oh yeah, I can share them in the chat.
I have those from you, but I will also send it with the replay later. But for those who are here and want to take notes, feel free to share those links with them.
Okay.
And yeah, I have checked out your YouTube channel. I'm a real fan already. So definitely, ladies, check it out, because you have really nice information that you're sharing with us. And also let us know, how can can someone book a session with you? Do you have like a discovery session?
Yes.
All of that.
people can, I'm going to start some coaching in 2021. I have some private clients now. And so I'm freeing up some spaces. So if people, you know, will just stay connected with me, they can go to my website, mindbodyfaith.org, and you can take the meditation quiz. That's a great way to kind of start. It provides you with different techniques to meditate with God. I also have a 7-day meditation challenge on the website, so you can definitely learn there how to cultivate and build a meditation practice. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also sharing, this is the most recent video, 7 ways to meditate when you don't feel like it. I did this video specifically for those of us that, you know, have been meditating for a while, and people are like, oh, I don't know if I really feel like meditating, but there are an array of different things that we just talked about here, and how you can meditate and kind of spice things up a bit.
Nadia is asking if you also have things for children.
You know, I've been getting that request a lot from people. So I'm going to have to really reflect on that and think about some tools that can be used for children, and also for parents and children. Someone asked me recently about a prayer meditation guide for kids. I just did one for adults, but I don't have one for children.
Mm-hmm.
And so that lets me know that people really want to kind of connect with kids through mindfulness, and I think that's a great thing.
No, sorry, I would say to Nadia, when I do my yoga or meditation and when the kids are around, I just let them be around. And I've practiced with my son a few times where I just ask him to sit with me and breathe in and breathe out. And he's been doing it. He thinks it's really funny. And when he says that he's very energetic and a bit like he needs to sit down and calm down for a bit, I ask him to breathe. So I think that's ways that you can introduce it to your kids by letting them know, okay, this is something you can do. How do you feel? Like, are you upset? Like, instead of,
Mm-hmm.
you should think, okay, you're being naughty, just go and sit there quietly. Now I ask him to breathe, so that he makes the link to, oh, okay, when I'm not feeling calm, maybe that's something I can start doing alone. And once they see you practicing, they want to try it out anyway. So
Yeah.
I would say try that first. And yeah, a great resource is always YouTube.
Yeah, it's always great to you know, find different things on YouTube. I'll be exploring that a little bit more in 2021, but as the parent setting the example, that's a great way to start the practice. Sometimes anything that mommy and daddy do, the children want to do as well. And so mindfulness tools like cards and breathing exercises and different yoga poses. You know, when it comes to kids, the poses have fun names like mountain pose and dinosaur and all these different things, depending on the ages of your kids. But it's definitely mindful practices that are that can grow with your children at whatever age or stage that they're in.
Yeah. My son is 4. And yeah, he thought it was really funny to do it with me. My daughter, she used to do it, but she wouldn't sit still. But my son was able to sit still for a few minutes. So I was really surprised. And I think I should include them a lot more, because I used to always do my morning routine when no one is awake, just so I have my
Mhm.
quiet time. But I realized that sometimes just doing it with them is also helping. So yeah, try
Yeah.
around.
And one of the things that I think is so important, because I do work with kids in different ages, and just like I have some candles burning here, you know, your kids may not necessarily meditate like you, meaning that you want everything to be quiet. But even something like I have candles on my website too. Like a simple candle can be a meditative tool, and what it can be like is, you know, let's look at the candle, and in our inside voice, what colors do you see? So meditation and mindfulness also includes the use of imagination, use of your words, cultivating stillness and observation and attentiveness. And so we want to be able to really make these practices applicable to children as well, and where they are. So I find that candles, kids are fascinated. Even like a ball that shakes where the snow
Mm-hmm.
begins to flow, you know, even something like that. And saying, you know, just like when you see that magic ball, you know, your mind begins to settle when everything settles, and allow them to see that and envision that's what's happening with the thoughts in their mind, that everything is settling and getting calm. Using those types of things, which you can find all over the website, are great ways to introduce active kids to meditation without putting the rules in place that they have to be still, they have to be quiet and do it just like mommy and daddy, but making it fun.
Yeah. And ladies, we've been blessed by Sherrell because we have a discount that is will be shared with all of you. To, as she said, she has candles and other amazing products that will help you in your journey to mindfulness and just finding more calmness in your life. So I will be sharing all of that with you, and a guided meditation that she also prepared for us, so that you are supported during this holiday period and beyond. I will definitely recommend you to check out her website and reach out to her, for for a quick chat and see how she could help you in your wellness journey. So thank you very, very much, Sherrell.
You're welcome.
Speaking with you makes my Friday evening, start in a good mood. I know it's afternoon in where you are right now.
Yes.
And the kids are asleep, so I'm just gonna cozy up with my husband, watch a nice movie, and thank you so much for joining us, ladies. I hope to see you soon, and I wish you a happy holidays ahead. This was the last live and masterclass that I'm doing before my maternity leave, so
Oh,
if you were able to join or you're watching the replay later, I wish you happy holidays.
bye everyone.
Bye.